Welcome back, everybody. We got another episode for you, but I've got a question, Dan, I wanted to start. I've never asked you this, but what was your first job ever?
Pete, you get to jump in on this too, okay? So you're not exempt.
Okay. I'm happy to do that.
Yeah. My
What
very
was your first job, Danny boy? Come on.
my first paying job.
I don't know.
I basically I was cheap labor for my dad through my childhood, but then I had a summer job pouring concrete. So grabbing a shovel and shoveling concrete. And then when I was a junior in high school, our family, we bought a hog farm in eastern North Carolina. So that is a great motivator to go to college.
That is some pleasurable nostril smells right there.
Dude, you can't wash that off. It smells like it doesn't smell like money, by the way. I don't care what they tell you. But that was great motivator to go to college. But man, I learned a lot with that. I could share some anecdotes from that if we need to.
So similarly, my first paying job was in a dish pit, nothing fun. But my first family job is because my dad owned a garbage company, was cleaning out the trash cans. We call them Herbie Kirby's, but that wheeled trash can, my dad was the first one to bring that north of the Mason-Dixon line. Those were fine typically. It's the roll-off metal dumpsters, the commercial ones. That was painful.
Yeah, a little pressure washer action.
Yeah, I liked the pressure washer. I was the little guy that went in there when something wouldn't come off from the pressure washer.
Oh, well, at least it had already been pressure washed a little bit. I mean, the bad part is with pressure washing. By the way, you do pressure washing on the farm too. If you hit the wrong spot and it splashes back on you, that gets really fun.
Isn't it though?
Yeah. How
Pete,
about you,
what was
Pete?
your first job?
Oh gosh, well, I'm a farm kid, so grew up, worked a lot of hours. In fact, I'm not sure my dad ever wrote me a check. It was just part of the deal.
You got to live indoors, son.
Yeah. Yep. And then the first paycheck I got was I was a freshman in college, and I was working my way through college building kitchen cabinets. And I loved that job. It was awesome.
That's very fun. That might circle back in the story with manufacturing businesses elsewhere.
Yeah.
All right, let's go, Pete. For people who don't know you, and it's pronounced Ochs for those that are reading it, introduce yourself to our audience. Where'd you come from? Kind of how's your journey to get here?
Yeah, so I was born and raised in Hoisington, Kansas, small town of about 2,500 folks. Dad was a farmer. Mom was a school teacher. Had a great life growing up. Came to Christ at probably 11 or 12 years of age. Graduated high school. Went to the University of Kansas. So I was going to be a dentist. And I spent 2 years doing fun stuff like organic chemistry and organic chemistry 2. And
you mean organic chemistry 1 didn't cure you? You were glutton for punishment.
You had to go for round 2, baby.
Oh yeah, and then you get into biology. That's almost as fun as chemistry. And so I decided to take a business class my junior year. I had a little space in my schedule, and I took that class because I wanted to figure out how much how I was going to manage and invest all the money I was going to make as a dentist.
Sure.
And about a week or two into that business class, I said, I'm not a dentist. I'm a business guy. And besides, I don't think people want these farmer hands in their mouth anyway.
Fair enough.
So got out of college, took 22 hours my last 3 semesters to get out. Took a job. I had some friends that had a friend that owned a bank in Wichita, Kansas, and he asked me to go to work in the management training position. So I left college and came to Wichita and spent 8 years in the commercial banking business. And then at the age of 30, I started my own investment banking company on the buy side of mergers and acquisitions. We did that for 20 years until about 2000. We exited that business. In the middle of this kind of investment banking run, I violated the number 1 rule of business, and that is don't fall in love with your inventory.
Good.
And there was a couple of good little businesses, and we bought them. And from 2000 to today, we basically had a handful of companies. We're not really private equity guys. It's all family money, so we just kind of kept it in the family, as it were. And we in that company today, we have two manufacturing companies, an alternative energy company, and then a new little company we started 3 or 4 years ago doing coaching. And that's my new company. So that's how we got to where we are today.
Game on. Well, I think for those that might have heard of your story, you've been involved with some generous giving, which is a story you need to check out. The story I like, Carr, although our mutual friend Catherine Muthi is the hero of that story, in my opinion.
Oh, she's a champ.
Oh, she's one of the most amazing humans ever.
Yeah.
But for those people who know that, you're probably famous for doing something I think is kind of crazy, of running a commercial seating company in a unique location.
Yeah. Maximum security prison. It's a great place to run a business.
Everybody does that, don't they?
You got a captive audience. They're not going anywhere.
Wow, that was too easy, Todd.
Yeah. They show up on time and they come in uniform every day.
No dress code violations, huh?
No dress code violations in this place.
You got to tell the story, Pete, for everybody to know a little bit more about Seat King, how that came about, and how it ended up going behind the wall at a security prison.
Yes, so we had a rapidly growing manufacturing company in Hutchinson, Kansas, a town of about 40,000. And we were needing, probably 20, 25 new entry-level manufacturing folks every year. We just couldn't hire them in Hutchinson. There happened to be a state prison in the town. I heard about a work release program where they'd, send guys that were about to get out of jail or prison, actually. They'd send them to you. You'd work them during the day, and then they'd take them back to prison at night. We did that for a month or two. It was great. I loved it. Went back to the warden and said, "Hey, I need 10 more of these guys." And he said, "I don't have 10 more. Everybody that qualifies for that program is in the program." But he said, we're getting ready to vacate 20,000 square feet inside the prison that we manufacture stuff in. And you can have that space if you think you can move, work your business in a prison. So 30 days later, we moved inside of a maximum security prison, started with about 20 guys, and that was in 2005. And today we actually employ about 225 men in two different prisons, a maximum security prison and a medium security prison. Two different businesses. One builds electrical assemblies and one builds industrial seating.
There's got to be some stories that come out of that. Do you know of anybody else who does this?
Well, actually, there are a number of business. They call it private industry.
Okay.
PI, private industry inside prison. And Kansas is actually one of the leaders in that field. And there are actually, Kansas has 9 prisons, 10,000 men, about 800 of them work in private industry. We employ about 225 of them. So the other 500-600 men are employed by 9 or 10 other companies that do what we do in Kansas. So you rent the space from the state, you hire the workers directly, you have to pay them what they call, regular wages. We don't actually even set the wage. The wage is set by the state of Kansas.
Yeah.
So if you're a welder with 5 years experience, you get $20 an hour, let's say, or whatever it is.
Right.
So, yeah, that's how that works. And there are a few other states. There are probably 20 other states that do this same thing. I think we tend to have the best record and success in prison. And so most of the time when people want to really know how this thing works, the state of Kansas, whoever, will come to us, and we'll oftentimes give tours on our business. And the secret sauce for us is we're not only just a capitalistic company wanting to maximize the economic bottom line, but we maximize the social and spiritual bottom line as well. And that, my friend, makes a big difference.
So tell more about that, though, Pete. How do you guys transition? Obviously, the financial capital everybody gets, but in that context, how are you guys maximizing the human capital and the spiritual capital for life change with these guys?
Yes. So, most everybody has an economic plan. We spend a lot of time writing 20, 30 pages up on our annual plan, right? You need to do the same thing with a spiritual or social plan. And I think essentially what you do is the social part of it starts with this. I think it's a commandment Jesus gave and said to love your neighbor like you love yourselves. So what we do from a social perspective is simply, I look at that inmate and I say, am I doing for him what I'm doing for myself? Am I training him? Am I treating him properly? Am I helping his family? Am I doing all these things that I do for myself? Am I doing for him? Now, there are some limits inside of a maximum security prison, of course, but there's a lot of things you can do for these men. And then on the spiritual front, we just kind of do the same thing. I do believe, so just, examples of social capital. We have 15,000 hours of online training. So we have inmates that have gotten degrees in entrepreneurship. They've gotten, black belts in lean manufacturing. We have fathering classes. We have personal finance classes. Just anything you can think of. We have lots of parties. We party with these guys. We have an annual picnic where we bring their family.
Hold on. Like, I think for some of our audience, we need to hear ourselves walking into maximum security, right? There's how many gates close behind you with that lovely clink before you get to where the factory is?
Well, there's at least 2.
And what kind of party are we doing? Like, we got somebody working the grill, like...
Yeah, so this is my favorite time of year in the prison because we have 2 big parties. We have a Thanksgiving party and we have a Christmas party. And the state of Kansas is really good because they allow us to bring in full-blown turkey dinners and whatever. And it's interesting because normally we are very limited in the gifts that we can give inmates, okay? They just don't let you do that. But last year...
No files hidden in cakes, right? That'd be right out.
Yes, right. So last year we gave them a rubber container, a food container, just a blank plastic food container that was about 8 by 8 and 4 or 5 inches tall. And we order up 2 or 3 times the amount of food that they can eat in one meal, and they just load it up. So that's the gift they get for Christmas. And then of course, we play lots of games and stuff. And we give like bags of candy bars and all this kind of stuff away that they're allowed to have as well. But it's just, last Christmas, a guy came up to me and he said, he was a relatively new worker for us. He hadn't gone through this Christmas party thing before. And he said, this is the first time I've celebrated Christmas in 25 years. Wow. And it's the first time I understand what family really means.
How about that?
I mean, so these guys they're weeping when they thank us. It's amazing. And we do crazy stuff. Like we have, we get teams, we have lots of competition. So we'll have guys with, we'll give them 100 rolls of toilet paper and who can turn your fellow inmate into the best snowman. We just do all kinds of, and you'd say this is crazy in a maximum security prison. But do you understand what we're doing is we're bringing ordinary life to them that they don't get.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
That maybe they've never experienced, to your point.
Exactly right.
The dysfunction from the outside. Isn't that crazy that the first real functional life and family they've ever experienced is in a maximum security prison, all because of the intentional investment into the social and spiritual capital.
Yes.
And by the way, I can only assume the financial metrics work.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And you know why this is really interesting. We have got a seat company in there, and probably 10 or 15 years, the seat company's been in there about 12 or 13 years now. Probably 7 or 8 years ago, we said, if we're going to treat them like we treat ourselves, we get bonuses, but we don't give them bonuses. And we said, we need to get them to really understand capitalism, as it were. And so essentially what we do on our bonus system is we have a return on assets that we desire. And let's just say the return on assets is 20%. Let's just say it's $20, okay? Well, if our company makes $30, what we do is we split anything over the $20 return that we need on our assets. We split that 50-50 with all of our employees. So most of our employees are getting bonuses 10, 20% of their annual salary. Well, when these guys found out about that, they were building about 400 seats a day, and the same number of men now are up to almost 800. They've almost doubled it, and they are thinking of ways to do this better, to handle it once, to prepare it for the next guy. So capitalism works even in maximum security prison.
Isn't that something?
Performance-based pay gets the output to increase. Who knew? Even in a jail. I love it.
Yeah.
Pete, I'm assuming that the compensation that people are paid, they're not getting access to that while in prison. How does that work?
They actually do get access to that.
Okay.
So, so really what happens is 25% comes off the top and goes back to the state of Kansas for room and board. Okay. Then out comes restitution, child support, taxes. They're tax-paying citizens at that point in time. Then a mandatory savings, I think, of about 10%, something like that. And then whatever is left, they have access to. Now, in prison, the only thing they have is that they can spend money on is a commissary. Yeah. So they can go in and buy candy bars and this kind of stuff.
So they can send money to mom or to dad or to kids and that kind of thing.
Most of it goes to their family.
Yeah.
And so, I had and these guys are generous. We have a generosity.
That's the part I wanted to double click on is generosity. When I think of Pete Ochs, one of the first things I think of is generosity, right? And I love the fact that you've built an entire program for your people and they end up matching to where? Give us that part of the story.
Yeah. So let me give you, we just finished our 10-year numbers on the prison. And here's our 10-year numbers. We've paid almost $40 million out in wages to inmates over 10 years. Almost $10 million has gone back to the state, of course, for room and board. $1.4 million has been paid in restitution, and I believe about $250,000 has been contributed. And so I was in the prison here it's been almost a year ago, I guess. A fellow came running up to him. He says, "Pete, you're not going to believe what happened. My mom's house burned down, and she didn't have insurance." But he got a big smile on his face, and he says, "You're not going to believe this. My fellow resident inmates raised $12,500 in 24 hours and took care of my mom." Well, we didn't.
Oh my word!
They just
That's
did it on
cool.
And actually, there's going to be a new Generous Giving's going to do a new video in the prison, and it's actually about inmate generosity. And we had one of our middle managers come down with cancer and wanted a special treatment for cancer, and he'd kind of gone through all of his savings and whatever. They raised $12,000 for his cancer treatment. And we didn't tell them to do this. Now we match whatever they raise, we match. Okay, so there's some incentive there. But gosh,
how beautiful is that?
It's
redemptive, man.
Yeah, and our inmates are more generous on a per capita basis than our civilians.
That's convicting.
So take one step further into the spiritual capital. Tell us some of the stories of life change that you guys have seen happen with inmates as the opportunity to just to interface, just to rub up against them, right?
Yeah.
What's God doing there?
Oh boy, it's amazing. Probably 12 years ago. So I probably need to start back. And in 2005, I went into the prison because I needed labor. And if I'm just blunt about it, I was greedy. I needed folks to work for me. I didn't go in there to change the world.
Well, I appreciate the cathartic nature of your confession, Pete. Do we need to absolve him or anything, Todd? Or
the halo was above his head before, the sun coming in, and now it's gone.
Yeah,
I don't know if they parallel.
So anyway, about 3, 4, 5 months into this deal, I really got convicted that a prison is a desert of human flourishing, and that's when the whole economic, social, spiritual capital thing came to play. And how do we help inmates thrive and flourish, as it were? And so one of the things we did is we had some, we started Bible studies and some basic things like this on the spiritual front for a couple of guys. And I got this idea. I said, we need a big vision for these inmates. And so I stood in front of them. Once a month, we have a leadership lunch. We bring food in from the outside, and that entices them all to listen to me for 15 or 20 minutes. They're not there to listen to me. They're listening to get the Big Mac. And so anyway, I stood in front of them and said, guys, here's my vision. I want this to be the best prison in the United States of America. There was a pause, and then laughter literally broke out. Guys are high-fiving and slapping. This guy thinks we can have the best prison. And, that's an oxymoron, Ochs, and all these kind of things. And then I said, well, guys, here's my promise. Here's how we're going to do it. My promise to you is I'm going to help you become the best inmate. And if you can become the best resident of maximum security prison, we'll have the best prison. And back then, we only had probably 20 guys working for us, but 4 or 5 of those guys bought into that, and they began to get interest in spiritual things. A few of them were already Christians, etc. Well, as they became Christians and became more convicted about this, they said, we want deep theological training. So 12 years ago, we started a seminary inside the prison. It's 3-year seminary degree. It has 16. The curriculum is made up of 16 binders, 2-inch binders, and 48 books. Well, I went to the warden. I said, "Hey, can I bring these in?" And he goes, "Each inmate has a 1 foot by 3 foot shelf to put all their personal belongings on, and there's no way that we can work." So I said, "Well, if we Kindleize this, would you let us bring a Kindle in?" And a couple of days later, he called me and said, "We'll do that." So we Kindleized this seminary. It's all on a Kindle. We've graduated over 60 men in that seminary. They are changing the prison from the inside out, guys. Recidivism, our recidivism rates are 7% versus 70%.
Oh my goodness.
Nationally.
Dang.
7%. We've had 7. We just did our 10-year numbers, and 7% of our men have come back. And so I was in so we did that, and that thing has been great. And I don't know how many guys we have in it today. The warden came to me a few years after that. He says, "Man, we're getting all this spirituality, but there's no place to worship in the prison." He says, "Pete, I think we've got an 8,000. This is a 130-year-old prison. It's built around a rotunda concept where there's this big 2-story stone, beautiful building, and there was a top story that 8,000 feet in space that they just stored stuff in." He says, "If we can raise $400,000, we can convert this thing to a church, a spiritual life center." I said, "I'm in." Well, and it was supposed to take 2 years to build. So 400,000 in 2 years turned into $1.1 million in 10 years. So we got her done a few years ago.
Government bureaucracy still reigns supreme, right?
So I went into that chapel 6 months ago, and there were 2 men, and I was shocked to see them standing in front, these 2 men, because I knew them, and they were mentoring, and for 6 hours a day, they were teaching 80 other young inmates. And as I looked at them, I went up and I said, "What's going on here? Because aren't you supposed to be at work?" These were 2 of our employees. And let me tell you, I knew those 2 guys, and let me give you the story on them. 10 years earlier, one was the leader of the MS-13 gang in the prison. One was the leader of the Crips. And they literally told me they'd spent 3 years trying to kill each other in prison. Literally trying to kill each other. One of them heard about working for us, and he goes, "I'd love to have some money, and I think I'm a bad deal." So long story short, he got a job with us, came to Christ, went through seminary, got convicted that he needed to help his fellow Crip guy. So every time he'd see the Crip gang leader, he'd, like in the chow hall, he'd go over. He wasn't really supposed to do this. He'd hug the guy and say, "I love you," and walk off. That's all he'd do. After about a month or 2 of that, the Crip guy says, "Hey, man, what's going on here?" And that guy led him to Christ. That guy came to work for us. That guy went through seminary. 6 or 8 months ago, they left a $45,000 a year job working for us to go full time, no pay, ministering to their inmate brothers. Those two men are now taken around the state of Kansas to negotiate gang problems.
No kidding.
How
Power of Christ,
redemptive.
guys, I'm telling you.
What a redemptive for-profit business.
Yeah.
Like, that is, how cool is this?
Yeah.
Which I think maybe gets us full circle now to the shirt you're wearing, Enterprise Stewardship, and the coaching side. So you basically have lived this out in the lab for years, right? And have people knocking down your door going, what in the world are you doing? Hey, come take a tour through a jail. That's the sales pitch. And now, catch us up. What are we doing now with Enterprise Stewardship?
Yeah. So 7 years ago, I was 66 years old, and I had a son that was 40 years old, and he was itching to get me out the front door or back door or whatever door.
Any door we could find, yeah.
And
Is it
so,
foot in the back and we're shoving you out? Yeah.
So I was smart enough to hire a succession coach. Okay. And the guy came in, worked with us for a number of months. And I thought literally that I would just kind of fade off into the sunset. Austin would kind of gradually take control. Everything would be fine. Coach came to town, took me to dinner and said, hey, Pete, here's the deal. You need to leave the business based on your personality and your son's personality. Because when you're in the room, I've seen it. When a big decision comes up, they don't look at him, they look at you. And so I was there on Friday. I was gone on Monday. Guys, I'm telling you, it was the hardest year of my life, 7 years. Because I'd preached stewardship for 25 years, but all of a sudden this thing that I was stewarding, when I'm sitting at the conference table in the lawyer's office signing the stock certificates over to my son, I couldn't do it. I did not want to do it. I'm telling you, what a lesson I learned there. So,
well, you've taught for years, God is the ultimate owner.
Exactly. And
but
now
your fingers are around your baby.
You know, it's one of those minutes, it's one of those moments of surrender that we have to go through. It's one of those James 1 moments. Consider pure joy, brothers, when you encounter trials of various kinds, and when the testing of your faith develops perseverance. Let perseverance have its perfect result, that you will be mature and complete, not lacking anything. God took me out of that, and I was disgruntled about it. But guys, I would not be sitting here on this podcast with you if that wouldn't have happened. And Enterprise Stewardship then got, the first thing I did is I'm going to write a letter to my grandkids to tell them how I think ought to, I'm not a high D kind of guy at all or anything, but I thought I'll just write this nice little letter to my kids. It turned into a book. And that book turned into a business called Enterprise Stewardship, because essentially what all I'd done is I'd just taken the business practices we'd been doing for 30 or 40 years and codified them into a very simple system. And the system is really this. We believe that the purpose of business is to be a catalyst for flourishing, and you need to create economic, social, and spiritual capital. That's what, if you have a good job, you got some good friends, and you know Jesus, what else do you need? Nothing. So that's the purpose of this. And then we have 4 simple values: honor God, serve people, be excellent, and be a good steward. And so we take those 4 values and say we're going to create economic, social, and spiritual capital. Now, we're a little more sophisticated than that, and we have really kind of 4 pillars: navigation, culture, strategy, and cash. And we take those 4, and we've built really a overall system that has these 4 subsystems in it. And we just help people navigate their business. We help them get their culture established. We go through a strategic thing for them. And then I'm a finance guy. I love cash flow, and cash is king. And so we spend a lot of time helping them on the cash flow side of things.
Amazing.
That sounds absolutely awesome. So you are, I've described it before that EOS functions at the 10,000 foot level, scaling up, and 40X might be higher. You guys are down in the weeds to helping on HR issues, because some people have an excuse of, I can't do all these things. And so you help through some of that pieces as well, but then also brass tacks business issues as well, right? It's kind of all the above from a full operating system for doing business way that honors the Lord and triple bottom line investing.
Yeah. So if you compared us to EOS, we have 4 pillars: navigation, culture, strategy, and cash. Our navigation system is going to look very, very similar to EOS.
Yeah, there's nothing new under the sun.
Nothing new under the sun. We love EOS. In fact, I think when we started our business, I thought EOS was a competitor. They're really not. We're just kind of we're an add-on. We're a bolt-on to EOS. So if you're running EOS, let us bolt on culture, let us bolt on strategy, let us bolt on cash. Okay. So they're just 3 more systems. We're just going deeper and broader than EOS did, because we're adding the culture piece, the strategy piece, and the cash piece.
Interesting.
But again, explicitly, we have 3 bottom lines, right? That is not, again, some implementers will do that, but as an overall system, that's not Gino's worldview.
That's correct. Yeah. So all of those work within the triple bottom line approach.
Yes.
Exactly right.
Yeah.
That is super fun. That is super fun. So I want to close the loop on the story with you and Austin. On the board, give feedback, adult, child. How do you do that back and forth? That seems like the fight did it literally over the weekend, and you're done, and you're signing the checks. And
yeah. Well, it was really not a fight. And he and I didn't have.
Well, it was a fight between you and yourself. It had nothing to do with him. It was you having a wrestling match.
Yeah, exactly right. And so I just went away, and they had a few bumps in the road that first year or two, and I'm just like dying from a long distance. I'd have probably had the same thing. But I will tell you, it's been really great, because it's now been we're moving into our 7th year, and in the last year or two, he has figured out that Dad might be smarter than he thought he was, and so we're kind of converged. We're kind of converging back. So we try.
Can I have Austin talk to my boys? Is that allowed, Pete? Can I connect him in? I'm in the dad's an idiot phase hard right now, baby.
Well, you just I believe in your 30s you're pursuing success. I believe in your 40s you're pursuing significance. You kind of you've worked actually, if you back up to your 20s, I think you're really searching. You're searching for what I call the 3 M's: your mission, your mate, and your master. And for me, my master was money. I did find my mate, and I did find my mission, which was my
not dental school, that's for sure.
It wasn't dental school; it was business. But my master, I was wrestling between money and God, and once you get that settled and you're in your 30s, you want to go for it. And and there's nothing wrong with that. But I was in hot pursuit of success, and then God really used a big bump in the road at the end of my 30s, which moved me from ownership to stewardship, and I think moved me from what I would call success in my 30s to significance in my 40s. I read Bob Buford's book, Halftime.
Yeah.
All right. Unfortunately, I thought significance meant financial generosity, so I just changed scorecards. Instead of net bottom line, it became how much money could I give away. And then we did that.
Pete, hold on a second. When people hear that, they're like, "Oh, that's great. You're double tithing." That's not what we're talking about. Can you give some specificity to some of the generosity stuff you guys were doing?
Yes. So probably the biggest life-changing event, or thing that happened in the generosity movement. My wife and I helped found a Christian school in 1994. And
they're calling right now? No, they're not.
That was my alarm to join this podcast a little early, a little later.
We need to specify which time zone we're talking about. That's not our fault, but yeah, there we go.
So anyway, this school took off, and we were in a church. We outgrew the church. We needed to build our own building. And we tried to we needed $4 million to build this school. And we tried for a couple of years, and I think we'd raised $300,000. of the 4 million, something like that. My wife came to me one weekend and said, Pete, this particular business that you've got, I think you need to just sell it and build the school. And of course, she picked the business that was the easiest to run and made the most money.
Thanks, Debbie. Appreciate that one.
Smart lady.
And so, we had a lively weekend. Some people would call it a debate. Some would call it a fight. I don't know what it was, but anyway,
a moment of intense fellowship.
That's right.
Yeah.
So on Monday morning, I called a couple of public companies that were sniffing around wanting to buy us. And I said, I'm going to sell, and this is the price. And if you want to let me know, I need to know in a few. I think it was probably took them about a month to do their thing. Anyway, I got 2 offers, signed a contract to sell it. I had an all cash offer and I had an all stock offer, and I took the all cash offer because I needed the dough. And within 2 weeks of signing that contract, this particular business had to be in the medical business, and 90% of our revenues came from Medicare. And within 2 weeks of signing that contract, Congress passed a 40% reduction in our reimbursement rates.
Thank you, Debbie. Indeed, that's huge.
Yeah. The moral of that story, guys, is listen to your wife.
Facts.
Who's listening? When she's listening to God, you better be daggone sure about
exactly
that.
Right. And so there's these, it was just amazing. A follow-on to that, we were supposed to close on May 1st, and the president of this public company was going on vacation, and I had actually given some stock to my friend Howard Dayton with Crown Ministries back then, and Howard didn't get his stock certificates and paperwork back to me, and I was mad at Howard. This guy's going on vacation, and figure out what a bad deal it was, because he knew by now his revenues were 40% off from what they should be. Long story short, we came back and closed on May 8th. In October of that year, Congress passed a reduction in the capital gains tax rate from 28 to 20%, retroactive to May 8th. Saved us $1 million in taxes.
That's awesome.
So,
won't he do it? My goodness. I mean, again, Pete, one of the reasons we love having conversations with people like you is, you've got the experience. You've kind of been there and done that. And God's not inviting every entrepreneur to do what you're doing. But what he is inviting them is to something. Yes. And when we hear those stories of God's faithfulness, man, it just inspires us to walk in obedience, because it's like when the children of Israel were coming across the river, right? And God said, hey, I want you to build these stones of remembrance. Dude, we're not memorializing you yet. Okay. Don't hear me like that. Okay.
We're not kicking you out the door.
We're not kicking you out the door. But we need to remind ourselves the stories of how God has been faithful, and how he's been faithful in the past. He'll be faithful in the present. He'll be faithful in the future. And so when you really believe that, when we talk about faithonomics, how does our faith inspire, inform every deal, every dollar, every decision? It really is pretty daggone good business, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
And so thank you for being willing to kind of walk back into those stories, because, the entrepreneurs and the business owners of today need to know how God's been faithful in the past, because so much of that stuff is counterintuitive, right?
Yeah.
So thank you for walking into those kinds of stories, because it's beautiful, man.
Well, and Todd, back to generosity for a minute. People could hear that story and go give their business away. Okay. So let me tell you the rest of that story. Okay. So this was in 1997. And, I mistook generosity or stewardship for generosity, financial generosity. So I just put the hammer down to make as much money as I could and give it away. Well, 1999, 2000, 2001, two things happened. One was called the dot-com bubble, and the other was called 9/11.
Yeah.
And our black ink went to red ink.
Mhm.
Our generosity ceased. I burned through millions of dollars of cash. We came within a whisker of going bankrupt. Pete looked at God and said, don't you understand what I've done for you?
Ooh.
Yeah. And he said in a very polite way, you know,
Was it in Debbie's voice?
it was Debbie's voice. Through Debbie. Debbie said, Pete, he doesn't want your money. He wants you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think at 50 years of age, I moved from significance to surrender.
Here's what I'll only comment to that, Pete. It wasn't that you were incorrect about the generosity. It was just incomplete.
You're right, Dan.
Because once he gets you, guess what else he gets is your generosity.
Yeah, exactly.
But to your point, we can write huge checks. By the way, that's the easiest part, isn't it?
It's the easiest part.
Especially when you're just giving out of the affluence.
Yeah.
I mean,
well, we're giving out of our excess. We're not giving out of the
there's really no sacrifice there.
No.
There's really no sacrifice.
Yeah. And that is a great point, because what is the outward manifestation of surrender? It's sacrifice. Man, oh man. And you see, so I think in your 30s, you're pursuing success. And for me, in my 40s, I was pursuing significance. And in my 50s, I was pursuing surrender.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I'd love to tell you I live a surrendered life, but I don't.
Trip, stagger, fall, buddy. Trip, stagger, fall.
Yeah.
And that's Romans 12, right? We're a living sacrifice, but we keep kind of crawling ourselves off the altar. And it's like,
that's the problem.
And I got to die daily? What am I doing?
Yeah.
But what I love what you said there, Pete, the journeys that we're all on, and again, with our conversation, we're primarily looking to those in business leadership, business ownership. You realize your business journey may be the greatest discipleship opportunity that you've ever experienced.
Yes.
Absolutely in agreement.
So don't miss that.
Yes.
Again, that so many people want to bifurcate. They want to separate. My faith is here. My business is here. The only place where they intersect is in the financial realm. Yes. And what I love, where you with the triple bottom line, as Todd likes to talk about, the three capitals. Hey, the spiritual capital isn't just others; it's us. Because to your point, he doesn't need me; he wants me.
You're right. I like that.
Yeah.
And funny story along that line. Going through this time, I said, God's calling me out. I'm bad in business. And two, I think God's calling me into ministry. And so I spent about a few weeks, and I said, I'm just going to sell my companies. I'll make enough money where I can just fund my own ministry. I won't have to ask anybody for money. And so I got this plan. It was a great plan. I got it all put together. I had two mentors that had been walking with me for 20 and 25 years. So I called him up. I said, I better probably make sure they're good with this deal. And I took them to lunch, and we had a nice chat. And then I kind of started my big grandiose announcement. And I announced to them, and I thought they'd just turn over and high five. They just sat there and they were stunned, and they just looked at me. And after probably a minute, they kind of got themselves together. And one of them looked across the table and said, if you think you're bad in business, you've not seen bad till you've gotten into ministry. And to your point, Dan, they said business is your ministry.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And in 2 minutes, they totally had changed the direction of my life and had given me a vision way beyond what I had ever thought about. Business is our ministry.
Yeah.
Okay, Dan, I think we need to kind of wrap this up. But Pete, I'm struck. We've chatted several times before, but today I heard something on those weekends, right? When you're going to sell the paperwork and you're challenged with your son, and we sold the business, whatever. I think I would love to have you, if you can, to pray over our audience specifically for that weekend to wrestle with the Lord, right? To go through, hey, what is that next level for me to get to that surrender? And how do what if again, just running a seat business in a jail, right? That's kind of out there for most people to think through. But what's the next level that they need to do on running their business a way that honors the Lord? If you can pray over those two things, I think that'd be awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. Let me do that. Father God, thank you for this thing you've given us called business. And Lord, I thank you that it's one of the best platforms we have to share the good news. Lord, I thank you that you've given us the opportunity to make money, to build relationships, and to share you in a very winsome way. So, Lord, for who's ever listening to us today, I would pray that you would encourage them to be surrendered. And if they're going to surrender, they've got to take risk. Father, I'm thinking of the parable of the talents. It said you gave one 5, you gave one 2, and one 1. And it said the one that got the 5 and the 2, it said they took it and put it to work. They took risk with it. And so, Father, I would just pray that you would let us see this, the money that we have, the cash in the bank as economic currency, and let us take risk with that. And Father, I would pray that the time that you give us, which is the currency of social capital, that you would let us risk our time for you and not just spend it on ourselves. And Father, the currency of spiritual capital is our faith. And Father, I am so poor at taking risk with my faith. I'm afraid to share it with people. And Lord, we should be giving it away at every moment we can. So I would pray that those folks listening, that you would help us all become risk takers with our money, with our time, and with our faith.
Yes.
And so, Lord, I thank you for Dan and Todd. I would pray that you continue to bless them in their efforts, that people would be blessed by what they're doing. And we just pray all these things in the great and gracious name of Jesus. Amen.
Amen. Amen. Hey, Pete, excited for what God's doing with Enterprise Stewardship. We'll make sure everybody knows how to get a hold of you and
oh, great.
Our dear friend Mark Beebe. Would you please make sure that he and Kim, behave themselves, and
he's doing well. And
good.
By the way, we're getting ready to put Enterprise Stewardship into a perpetual purpose trust in the next few weeks.
Very fun. Then
I think my son will follow along with one or two of his businesses, and so we're going to hit the road. And I just, it's a powerful tool for the right person.
You bet. Yeah. You bring a
Uh-huh.
lot of joy to us, my brother. Thank you.
Yeah, likewise. Dan, I'm fired up about seeing you face to face here in a few weeks.
Yeah, it's going to be good. It's going to be good.
Yeah.
Many blessings to you, man. Thanks for being with us today.
You bet. Take care.
Man, we could have gone another 30 minutes with that conversation.
He's one of my favorites, man. Oh, my word. It started off, hey, I want to be this. I need employee. And he admits now is a little bit greedy. We need to get whatever. And then I started to just see the people in front of me. And our question was, how do I treat them how I'd treat myself? Do unto others as you want them to do unto you, right? Like the Bible actually is applicable. What? Huh? I should read it for all of life, including my business? What? All of those thoughts were awesome.
I've got a bunch of writer-downers.
Oh, yeah.
So he borrowing from Bob Bufert's book, Halftime, which, listen, if you've not read that and you're in the second half, you need to read that book. But he talked about success in the 30s, moving to significance in the 40s, to surrender in the 50s. Here's the cheat code. Go ahead and put surrender first and foremost.
Yeah.
If you don't get
You're allowed to surrender in your 20s, Dan? What are you saying?
That allows the significance and the success. It'll come on somebody else's time, mainly God's time. But then you'll experience all the peace. You'll experience all the joy. The fruit of the Spirit will flourish in that context. I also, when he was talking about the wrestling match that he was having, with basically signing away the companies. Yeah, it's God's until I actually have to do something with it. And then we clutch it back, right?
Yep.
Have you ever heard of Henry Nouwen's The Three Lies of Our Identity?
No.
Yeah, there are three lies that all of us have to wrestle with. And Nouwen walks through these in some of his writing. You Google it and you can get the information. But the lies of our identity: I am what I have. I am what I do. I am what others think of me. And if you think about it, that's exactly what Pete had to walk into in that context. And I was having a conversation even this morning with an aspiring business owner that the lies of the enemy are so thick around those questions of our identity. When we get another cheat code, if you're a follower of Jesus and you're a business owner, you don't realize how much we can place our identity in our business until we don't have it anymore. I mean, I've watched too many business owners sell their business and then they make fishing and drinking beer their job. Yeah, they become professionals at it, man.
Yeah, their golf game's good, and their lawns never had more clean, green grass.
And they're really searching for identity.
Yeah,
and when it's the whole idea of the level of a discipleship program that really walking into being a steward of our business becomes. Yeah. So wrestling with those three lies, I think, is something that I'll be processing on this week, just to remind myself, where have I allowed those lies to insidiously seep into the way I think and the way I approach what God's called me to today.
Yeah. The other thing too, he threw in at the end of a perpetual capital trust, like it's just one of the things I love is just because we're doing things in a Jesus way doesn't mean we need to forgo all of the excellence tools that we've had, right? We don't need to do slope agape, a phrase we have within C12, where we do crappy work in Jesus' name and then we slap a fish on our business card, right? How do we do things still with excellence, which also means our exit structures, right? Which perpetual capital trust are an interesting structure on the exit, kind of like a B Corp to keep the thing going, but has a different way to transfer the equity part, right?
You may need to explain that, Todd, because you're the finance guy in the room.
Oh, it just simply, there's a lot of stuff. I would not want to give legal advice on here.
No.
Structure to have an exit where you give it away functionally.
Right. That's right.
And you're basically keeping the continuity of the organization and the operation to the intent of the founder.
You're protecting the mission, the vision, and the values. You're protecting those things.
And you can do the same way with an ESOP too. There's an ESOT, employee ownership trust, that are real common in Europe, is coming our way, primarily in England. And the perpetual trust is a way to give it away, but to maintain mission continuity on steroids, mandated as a part of the organization, right? It's a B Corp, but inside of a trust. Interesting structure. We need to be excellent at what we do with our day job, right? That includes our exit. That includes how we think through loving our people. That includes the dignity we're bringing to the day job of the work, especially highlighted through Pete's story of doing it inside of a jail. But like all of those pieces are fantastically interesting. But again, very robust story in Pete. Basic challenge to you: what's the next step God is calling you to do? And how do I just take that? Right. It could simply be chaplains. It could be a Bible study. It could be you pray and you mention the name of Jesus at the end of your prayer. Like, start where you are and take the next step in the prod. It doesn't have to be you go find the next jail in your state and figure out what manufacturing business you can do.
That's right.
You're not in manufacturing, I'd recommend that be a really bad idea.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But how do we honor God in business? Take the next step and have some stories, have some inspiration like the ones we're telling you here. But follow Jesus in faithful obedience.
I promise you, God is inviting you in your unique, specific context to live out the gospel in a way that is unique to you and to your business. And that's exactly, by the way, I love the way Pete was honest. Listen, I did it because I was greedy. I needed employees.
Yeah.
Man, I needed some warm bodies that would show up in uniform.
Yes. Yeah.
So it's amazing how even sometimes in those contexts, God redeems that.
Yeah.
So just to do the next right thing.
Yes.
So, man, I hope you guys are inspired. Hit the subscribe button. If Todd and I don't have a whole lot of great stuff to talk about, huh?
We're just hitting the subscribe today, not smashing it.
Well, that's your word. Yeah, you're a smasher.
Fair.
Yeah. Todd and I don't have a whole lot of interesting things to say. We can be kind of entertaining, but the guests we're bringing on, I think, are giving you some stuff that can really be helpful in inspiring you to really lean in on how do we leverage the business as a ministry? How can we be good stewards of what God's given us? So thanks for coming along the ride with us. Grateful.